Hi, and welcome to Stressed, the podcast to develop your stress resilience. Being ambitious and successful while living a happy life is possible. Learn how you can better cope with stress in day-to-day situations by applying tools and techniques that work for you. My name is Julia Arndt, and I'm extremely grateful that you decided to check out my podcast today. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome back to Stressed, the podcast to develop your stress resilience. Thank you so much for checking out today's podcast episode, no matter if you're watching this live video right now on my YouTube channel or you're listening to the podcast on your way to work via Spotify or iTunes. It's such a pleasure to have you. It's such a pleasure to share my knowledge with you. Today, I want to speak about 5 tips of how you can better manage your stress while being on business travel. And I'm actually sitting here on packed bags because I'm flying out to Chicago tonight for my very first keynote. I think I told you a little bit about it in the last couple of weeks. I'm really excited. And I thought this would be the best time to talk about stress management while traveling, because I've done this many times before during my work at Google, and it's not always really easy because we already have so many things to do. And on top of that, we have to travel. So today, let's talk a little bit about what you can do in order to be more relaxed, happy, and fulfilled when you're traveling for business and not come back feeling super overwhelmed and exhausted and having a ton of things on your table of things to do after you come back. So the very first step that I want to share with you is to really choose your travel times wisely. And there's not a one size fits all kind of approach. I know people that like to travel on a Sunday because it just gives them more time to relax. I know people that rather go on a Monday morning because they have family at home and it's just easier to manage that way. Whatever it is that is better for you, make sure that you do that. I'm leaving tonight on an 11 p.m. flight to Chicago O'Hare on a red-eye flight, and that's not my preferred way of travel, but it just worked out that way. So I'm really mindful of that, and I really try to, prepare everything so I can relax. I'm definitely planning to sleep on my plane ride tonight, even though I'm always a tiny little bit nervous when I'm going on a plane ride. So I hope that I will be able to sleep the 4-hour trip from Reno to Chicago. And at the same time, I'm really planning to go back to my hotel at the time when I arrive and go to sleep for a couple of hours, because the keynote will be at 1:30 tomorrow, which is so exciting. And I need to rest, and I really need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself and I'm not getting sick. So I hope that even if you do have to take red-eye flights, make sure that you plan your day, your first day of business, and you're not arriving at the airport and you have to jump into that first meeting. And if you do, make sure that you do something for yourself, something relaxing, something disconnecting. Even if you choose to really fully disconnect for the 4 hours on your plane ride, that can be your time to recharge. So be really mindful of that. The second step that I have is to be comfortable to say no to team dinners or client meetings. So I'm obviously not talking about the mandatory things that you have to do in order to meet clients while you're on business travel, but I want you to be mindful of kind of these optional gatherings when a couple of people are traveling, some of your team members might be traveling together, and be mindful to say no. And that actually brings me to my third point. So number 2 and number 3 are kind of related with each other, because number 3 is prioritize yourself. And I want you to think about that every time you say no to optional team gatherings, team dinners, whatever it is, then it is a yes for yourself, and it is a yes for yourself to make sure that you're recharging and you're taking time out to really disconnect. Because oftentimes let's be totally honest with each other. We're going to go to these team meetings and team gatherings, and we continue to speak about work. And that can be, a stressor. That can be definitely something that keeps our adrenaline pumping. And we really want to make sure that we're relaxing and we're taking time for ourselves. And it's not easy. I totally understand that. I know that, people might be giving you a hard time to miss out on these things, but I promise you, you will feel so much better the next day and so much more relaxed and so much more recharged and full of energy. So keep that in mind. So number 2 is be comfortable to say no to team gatherings. And number 3 is prioritize yourself. So that brings me to number 4, which is keep your routines. And we've talked a lot about routines in the past. You know by now, if you've been listening to my podcast on a regular basis, that I am doing a really almost strict morning routine and ritual where the first hour of my day, I am not checking my phone. And I'm really taking time for myself, especially when traveling for business, especially when you have a keynote or a meeting or something really important going on. Your stress levels might already be higher anyway. So it is extremely important that especially at those times, you keep your routines. So what it looks like for me is that I get up, I don't check my phone as I just mentioned, and I have a glass of warm lemon water, which really helps me to boost my immune system. And then I take 30 minutes to write in my journal and just write down how my night was, maybe how my day was the day before. I usually write about how my anxiety levels are because I am a kind of anxious person. And yeah, I'm just kind of keeping track of that as well. And it helps me to just kind of empty out all of my thoughts into my journal. For you, that might be completely different. So choose wisely what you're doing in the morning or what you're doing in the evening or what you're doing in order to take breaks. But make sure that you're keeping the routines and rituals that you have established. And I'm sure it was not easy to establish them, and keep them even when you're traveling for business, because there it's the really easy part to kind of slip out of our routine, and then we come home and we have already not done that routine for 4 to 5 days. Then it's really easy to say, oh, I haven't done it for a couple of days, so I'm not going to continue with it either when I'm back home. Especially important as well that when you're traveling for business, it's super taxing on your immune system. So number 5 is make sure that you're aware of how much alcohol and how much caffeine you're drinking while you're going on business travel. Both are substances that obviously keep us awake or make us a little bit more relaxed, but in the long run, it can actually really affect our sleeping patterns. And usually they say as well that if you're, for example, drinking alcohol in the evening, it might at first relax you, and it might actually be helpful for you to drink a glass of wine, for example, to get to sleep. But in the long run, the wine will actually hinder you to have a really deep sleep. So make sure that you're really aware of that and decide the next time if you want to say yes to a glass of alcohol, or if you have just something, something that tastes great, but that is maybe without any alcohol. Yeah. So yeah, it's really extremely important that you take time for yourself, as always in stress management. Prioritize yourself, rest, sleep, and disconnect. Those are the 3 big topics. So I hope this has been really helpful for you today. I know it's a short period again, a short episode, but I want to make sure that you have only 10 minutes where you can feed your brain with a couple of tips and tricks. I'm sure you're aware of them, so see this as a reminder, if you already know about these things, to be better at your business travel the next time. And I will definitely let you know how it's going in Chicago. I will definitely let you know how I'm feeling. As I mentioned, at the moment, I'm a little bit excited and a little bit stressed and anxious because it's been a couple of weeks of really intense preparation for me. I have my photographer and videographer who's coming with me to take this first keynote event all in. And so I will share a couple of things, of course, with you as well next week. And yeah, that's everything. So just remember, stress management is a skill that everyone can learn, and you are the driver of your change. And even if you only use 5 minutes today to take 5 minutes out of your schedule to do something that really recharges you, is better than not doing anything at all. Thank you so much. I hope you're doing well. Take care and talk to you soon. Julia.
If you enjoyed this episode, I would be extremely happy and grateful if you could leave me a comment and a 5-star rating. If you know someone who would benefit from the information I talked about today, please feel free to share it with them, no matter if it is your friends, your colleagues, and/or your family members. You will always find all links and a summary of the podcast in the show notes. It would be great if we could connect on Instagram or via email. You can find all details of how to find me in the show notes as well. In that way, you can also send me any questions that you might have. And as I mentioned, I also have a wonderful YouTube channel now where you can post comments and questions, so please reach out. I'm glad you're listening to this podcast. Thank you so much for your trust. With gratitude, Julia.